Hi parents, it's so good to connect with you again and review what we've been speaking to your children about during our kids' choir classes. This week we spent time focusing on our hearts and how important our hearts are to worship. We started by talking about that old French theologian, John Calvin, and how he talked about our hearts being factories of idols. We talked about what factories are, what it means when there's a place that's dedicated to making things. And then we talked about how important our hearts are because they can make things within us that we worship or that lead us to worship other things. Then we looked at the Bible. We looked at Mark chapter 12, verse 30. Love your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And we used that verse as a launching point to talk about how important our hearts are. Our hearts control how we feel. They control our emotions. And we have feelings and emotions because God has feelings and emotions and He created us in His image. But because of sin, our hearts are broken. Our factories make things that are not good. So we need Jesus to fix our hearts. We talked about how Jesus came, He died, He lives again. He has fixed our hearts by redeeming them forever. And now we have the opportunity to do something with our hearts, to do something about our hearts and help them become factories of worship. And we talked about how God gives us a tool, music, to help us work with our hearts. Music connects the things that we feel with the things that we think and help us produce the right things out of our hearts. We used an example to talk about how music and feelings are connected. We sang the Itsy Bitsy Spider, which everybody knows. We sang it slowly, we sang it quickly. We talked about how the different ways that we sing that song can make us feel different feelings. But then we talked about how it's not important the things that we feel about make-believe characters like the Itsy Bitsy Spider, but it's important the feelings that we feel about the real life Jesus. He's alive. He is our King. And the way we feel about Him, the way we worship Him is important. And we use music to help us do that in any given context, especially as a community and as a group in church. And we ended our time by singing Our God Is So Great. We did the same kind of exercise, singing it slowly, singing it quickly to help highlight how music helps our heart feel things. And when we think about the right things about Jesus and we feel the right things about Jesus, that gives our life goodness. The last verse we looked at was Proverbs chapter 4. That our hearts are the wellspring of life. And we ended by focusing on Jesus helping our hearts become wellsprings of life, not just for ourselves and our friends and our family, but our community.